All right. Welcome to our GIS Birds of a Feather at the Texas Conference on Digital Libraries. My name is Taylor Fairweather Leach. I use she, her pronouns, and I'm the Scholarly Communications Librarian at West Texas A&M University and a member of the TCDL Planning Committee. And I'm so pleased to be your session moderator today. So before we get started, a few housekeepings. Texas Digital Library and the TCDL Planning Committee are dedicated to providing an experience for everyone that is free from all forms of harassment and inclusive of all people. We ask that everyone here today be considerate and respectful in speech and action, attempt collaboration before conflict, refrain from demeaning, discriminatory, or harassing behavior in speech, and be mindful of your environment and of your fellow participants. You can also view our code of conduct on the homepage of the conference. Today's meeting will run approximately till 1:50. So please feel free to take a break as needed. I invite you to go ahead and say hello in the chat and let us know where you're joining in from. Share resources and make comments throughout today's Birds of a Feather. You're also encouraged to post your questions in the Q&A section, where you can also vote on other questions that you'd like our speakers to answer. Today's Birds of a Feather session will be facilitated by Michael Shinsky, and I will be watching for your questions in the Q&A and share them with our speakers. And now on to the show. I'm pleased to introduce Michael Shinsky, and I'll hand over things to you now.
All right, thank you so much. And I appreciate you, helping us with our session here. I'm really excited to see everyone here today for our GIS Birds of a Feather at our virtual TCDL. Really looking forward to the conversations that we'll be able to have over the next hour and 45 minutes or so, and appreciate you making time in your schedules today for this event. So I wanted to, let's see here, move on to our next slide and just kind of give an overview of what to expect at today's session. So really we developed this session with the intention of making this an opportunity for all folks who are here at TCDL today who are interested in geographic information systems, GIS, or geospatial data more broadly, to get together and just talk through maybe things that they're thinking about at their institution, things that they're actively working on, just to meet other folks across the state who are doing similar things or share similar interests. And yeah, just a good open-ended opportunity to talk about all things that you might be interested in related to this subject today, and build out these networks and relationships so that hopefully, moving forward, we'll all be able to collaborate more effectively and have this bigger network to rely on, and a bigger network that we can use to facilitate collaboration between institutions. So I did want to, well, I guess I can introduce myself too. So I'm Michael Shinsky. I am the GIS and Geospatial Data Coordinator at the University of Texas at Austin. And I am also currently the current 2021 chair for our TDL GIS interest group. So that's why I'm helping facilitate this session today. But I'm going to have a lot of help as well from the other leaders in our TDL GIS interest group who have done an amazing job over the last year. It's a pretty new group. We've been together meeting for almost exactly a year. And so we'll have an opportunity to hear from the chairs of our subcommittees and our vice chair of this group to get some updates from them on things that have been going on in the TDL GIS interest group over the last year. So that'll be a good opportunity to introduce everybody that's here today to the group. And hopefully moving forward, if you haven't been able to participate or maybe weren't aware of this group, we'd love to see more members join us for all of the great activities that we're working on, and our regular meetings, and we're making a lot of good progress, I think, on various GIS initiatives. So I did want to give an overview of our session structure for today. We're going to kick things off here in just a minute with some introductions and an icebreaker activity that our TDL GIS interest group Vice Chair Josh Bin is going to take us along through. He's done a great job setting up a a little icebreaker activity for us. So that'll give us an opportunity to introduce ourselves, get to know each other a little bit better. And then we will go through a quick overview of the TDL GIS interest group and things that we have been actively working on as a group over the last year. And then we'll have plenty of time left over for an open-ended discussion. Really interested to hear from all the folks that are here today, and really interested to see what topics we end up discussing. And yeah, we're really looking forward to that part of it, and seeing what comes up during our conversation. So without further ado, I will go ahead and turn it over to Josh, who will help us with our attendee introductions.
All right, well, I suppose I will start off with myself. I'm Josh Ben, for those of you who I haven't met before. I'm the Director of Data and Digital Scholarship here at Baylor University. Definitely a longtime user and enthusiast of GIS and mapping and geospatial analysis. And hopefully you'll get a little peek into really just how fun it is working with this group when we go through the icebreaker session in a moment. How do we envision doing the introductions? Maybe what we'll do is maybe I'll call out people so that we have some sense of order that will go, if that's all right, with as long as I'm not taking too much charge right now. So what we'll do is let's start with Christina Clonch.
All right. Hey, everyone. I'm Christina Clonch, and I work at Sam Houston State University Newton Gresham Library. And I am the History, Geography, Military Science, and Government Documents Library Liaison. And as part of this group, I'll be helping discuss the mentoring side. And I'm actually not the main leader for that, but I am one of the members for that committee. And I'm also an example of someone who is very new to GIS. Some of you may be also very new to it. And looking at this group, wanting to know more about what this is all about, if this is something you want to dive into. And it's really a great group to be a part of. And I hope to share more of that during the mentoring session.
Excellent. And Diane Lopez.
Hi, everybody. My name is Diane Lopez. I am the scholarly resource librarian at the University of Texas in San Antonio, so UTSA. I'm an early career librarian, so I'm entering my second year of librarianship. But I've always been interested in maps and migration, which got me into looking at GIS and learning about GIS. And so that's where I got my associates in. And I am the chair for the events, the GIS events. And so I will be talking more about what we've been doing and how we're thinking, how we're planning for next year. But yeah, it's great to meet everybody.
And Kate Carter.
Hi, everybody. I'm Kate Carter. I'm a research and instruction librarian from University of Houston Clear Lake. And I am the liaison for the geography and GIS programs at our institution, which is how I got involved with this group. And I'm currently serving as the chair for the survey subcommittee for this group. So I'm really excited to share with you what we've been working on as a subcommittee and get to know more folks and get more people involved.
John Watts.
Hi, everyone. I'm John Watts. I'm the Director for Research Data Management Services at Texas A&M University, and I am the co-chair of the Data Collaboration Interest Group, along with my colleague, Jessica Terlogan.
And Jeffrey Potter.
Got to find that mute button. I'm Jeffrey Potter. I'm the webmaster over at the Center for Transportation Research Library at UT Austin. I'm a complete newbie to GIS, but I am a complete map nerd. So I really enjoy maps and big, beautiful maps. And we have a nice small collection of beautiful maps that we want to do something with. We used to have a project on our catalog where our research and progress would all mark where the actual project was taking place, but we lost our connector with TxDOT that was taking care of the other aspect of that. And so we had to take that part out. But I would like to do something like that and take care of it ourselves in the future. So I would love to learn everything I can right now.
And Sierra Ladisaw, hopefully I got that right. I can't hear Sierra. I don't know. Can you all hear her? No.
Is it in your settings?
You know what we'll do? Let's move on, and we'll, at the end, remind me someone if I forget. We'll head back to Sierra and see if we have that resolved. Let's go to Taylor Fairweather Leach.
Hi, everyone. I'm Taylor Fairweather Leach. I'm the moderator of this session. I am the Scholarly Communications Librarian at West Texas A&M. And though I am absolutely newbie GIS, all things, I don't know if this is in the same realm, but I did just complete a project on our campus into the repository. I manage the repository. And I just finished a project of uploading a different maps collection from a guy who focused on the Panhandle Plains and the Llano Estacado, and he created these maps. So super cool collection if y'all are interested in taking a look at it. So hopefully that's in the same realm, maybe.
Yeah, it sure is. There's very little GIS without maps. Let's move on to Frank Smutniak. We'll come back to, oh, no, we won't.
Sorry. Yes, I just had an interest in GIS and maps. I haven't had the opportunity to work with it yet, but just wanted to follow along and learn.
Next is Courtney Mama.
Nice try.
What is the correct spelling?
It's Courtney Muma.
Muma, I apologize.
But you know, I give props to anybody who even confidently tries it. So, so I'm a lot of you know me already, Deputy Director of Texas Digital Library, but I also work very closely and manage our Texas Data Repository service and work with that steering committee. So the first thing I want to say is that at some point, I think there'll be some kind of convergence subgroup that will have to happen between the GIS TDL interest group and the TDR steering committee. And another thing I'd like to say is that because the TDR uses Dataverse, which is managed at Harvard University, I'm very involved with the Dataverse community, and so are several of the TDR steering committee members. And in that global Dataverse community consortium, there is an active interest group looking at GIS in Dataverse. And so I kind of try to pay close attention there, and then hear about what the GIS group is doing, including coming to things like this, so I can start paying attention to when that crossover comes to a point where we could figure out how we could be more helpful from TDL's perspective. So I'm looking for those kind of common denominator issues that TDL can help with, because as you know, with limited resources, we all need places where we can share our expertise with each other. So thanks for letting me be here. I probably won't have much to add about GIS specifically, but just excited to hear what y'all have to say.
And I work at TDL with Courtney as well.
Fantastic. And you'll be surprised, Courtney. I bet there'll be something that you'll be contributing within the next hour and a half or so. Next is Colleen Lyon.
Hi, everyone. I'm the head of scholarly communications at UT Austin, and I work with Michael Shensky. I don't actually have a lot of direct work with GIS, but I really want to learn more about what's happening in the community and what y'all are up to.
Thanks, Colleen. And Melissa Rucker. And maybe we'll come back to Melissa. Ooh, this one's challenging. And Stacy Ogilvie.
Hi, you got it right, actually. It's Scottish. I work at the University of Texas in content management. I am the cartographic cataloger, the only one. I also, during the pandemic, I've been mostly focusing on cataloging monographs and ETDs because we're so far behind because of the pandemic. There's only 3 of us cataloging monographs and ETDs, and we're thousands of books behind still. So, but anyway, I just have a fascination in the crossover between analog maps and GIS. So I've been to several of Michael's talks for staff and the public.
Yeah, you guys are very fortunate to have Michael down there with you all. Let's go back to Sierra and see if we have a better connection, perhaps. I think it was Sierra, correct? Yeah. And if not Sierra, perhaps Melissa Rucker. And then in that case, I think, is there anyone who we did not get to? All of the thumbnails on my screen I called out, I think.
Feel free to utilize the chat feature in Kuva as well if you're unable to get your mic working or anything like that.
I think Sierra's joining via another means. All right. Are you able to chat, Sierra?
Maybe?
Yes, we heard the maybe.
It just turned into a whole technology ordeal, just like working with GIS. So I'm Sierra Ladisaw. I work at Cushing Memorial Library and Archives at Texas A&M University. And I am the digital scholarship curator, the curator of the Rare Maps collection, the curator of our maritime collection, and the co-curator of our Texas collection. And so my passion is really in that maps realm, and I am finding ways to integrate GIS into our special collections material. Hopefully this month we'll be launching our first digital exhibit that includes like baby steps of a story map. So.
Very nice. I think that's everybody. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to go ahead and share my screen just for a few icebreaker exercises, and then we'll shift right on back to Michael for the primary PowerPoint. All right, so we created a Mentimeter. If you've never used this before, just head, as it shows at the top here, you don't need the W's or the dot. If you go to menti.com, you can even use your phone like I've got up here now. And when you get to menti.com, if you type in this code, the space is not required, just the 28938317. And what you should be presented with is this first of 3 questions. This one is the most far out zaniest one. We have monthly meetings, as I'm sure we'll get into more details, but we have monthly meetings in this GIS interest group. And in the last meeting, which was either last week or the week before, we had a pretty fun conversation about icebreaker exercises and potential questions. I'm not going to call out the person, but the person is here in this call right here who came up with, many of us thought, with the ingenious icebreaker question of, imagine that everyone in this meeting right now are all common items in a refrigerator. What item would you be? You can, on your computer or on your phone, just go to menti.com, type in that code. And what it's going to do, it's going to create, well, it'll be a series of words and phrases. It'll be a word cloud if someone actually types in the same thing as somebody else, but it's generating a word cloud here. So I'm going to enter this in as well. To add a bit of levity to an otherwise GIS focused session here. Oh, I have envy for the brilliance of the person who put margarita mix. That was fantastic. Leftovers from last week. You'll wait a little bit longer here. And so if you've never, Mentimeter is free. You could just hop on to mentimeter.com, create an account, and you can create interfaces just like this, word clouds, multiple choices, rankings, the works. All right. I still think the margarita mix wins. All right, I'm going to click next here, and it's going to take us to our second of three. This one a little bit more geographic. Oh, I missed an S in places. Apologies for that. But what are the 3 best places that you've traveled to? And when you, on the website or phone, you should now be presented with 3 boxes. You don't have to type all 3, but up to 3 places, the best places that you've traveled to. You know, it looks like Costa Rica and Seattle are slightly larger than the others. I think we actually have multiple entries. And Chicago. All right, one more, very related to this one. What 3 places, I remembered plural here, do you want to travel next? When we can travel, although I flew last weekend, we can travel again. Well, as we're filling in the last of these here, we know as a group what we would be as common items in a refrigerator. I think it was, oh gosh, I can't remember now, the best places that we've been, but we can definitely see, it looks like Japan, Ireland, and Korea are really topping, or especially Japan, for places that we want to travel to. So hopefully that kind of set the tone for this meeting. I'm going to stop sharing and pass this off to Michael.
All right, Josh, thank you for doing an excellent job leading us through those introductions and an icebreaker. Really interesting to see all the diverse responses. It was a lot of fun. And Josh, thank you so much for getting that set up with the Mentimeter, so we can see all of that happening in real time and see everybody's responses. That's pretty cool. And I wonder, does that get saved so that we can, I don't know, maybe post this somewhere or something if we have a chance to?
It sure does. It sure does.
Right.
And I'll work on trying to find the best way that we can share it with everybody.
Yeah, it'll be interesting if we do something similar in future years to see how maybe our word cloud changes from year to year. Yeah, and so thank you everyone for participating in that. Great opportunity to get to know each other all a little bit better. I'm going to go ahead and start resharing my screen here. Let's see. And can everybody see our slideshow again? All right, great. So I do want to give everybody, and I know I mentioned this a little bit already, our TDL GIS interest group. I want to give everybody an overview of how this group got started, where we're at, and then we're going to dive into a brief discussion here of what we've accomplished over the last year and some of our goals for the year ahead. But basically, after TCDL, unfortunately, was canceled last year because of the pandemic, which upended everything. We ended up scheduling kind of a belated GIS Birds of a Feather session last June. That was a great opportunity to get folks together. I was blown away by the level of participation that we had. Was really excited to see just how many folks joined. Wasn't sure what to expect, but there was really so much enthusiasm and interest in GIS that was pretty apparent after that first meeting, that we decided to, after that, schedule some follow-up meetings to get folks together. And what ended up emerging from these meetings kind of in June and July of last year was the formation of the TDL GIS interest group, which TDL was absolutely instrumental in helping us form. Alex and Leah did an amazing job helping me figure all of this out, what we needed to put this together. And so working with TDL, and then of course all of these new folks that were coming together from different institutions across the state, we were able to formally form the TDL GIS interest group. And we've been very successful, I think, over the last year. We have many active members who are regularly meeting each month. We come together for a TDL GIS interest group meeting, the full group. And we have a number of subcommittee meetings that also happen at various times each month. And most of these subcommittees are meeting monthly. We have 4 standing subcommittees, which we'll be hearing from in just a minute. Where we'll have our chairs of each subcommittee giving us an update on what they have been working on over the last year with the members of those subcommittees. And we'll learn a little bit more about what their plans are for the future, and pretty exciting developments going on there on various initiatives. So that will be interesting to hear from everybody involved in those efforts. And this group, as I mentioned, is formally established, and as part of that process, we actually defined a group charter that we ratified a few months ago. So we have a governing document that describes how this group will be managed moving forward, and we think we have a great plan for ensuring that the work we're doing is sustainable. And really, none of this would be possible without the many contributions of our volunteers from institutions across the state who are graciously donating their time to contribute to all the great work that this group is doing. And so really excited to share information about our most significant accomplishments over the last year. So with that said, I'm going to go ahead and turn our discussion over to Kate for an update on what has been going on in our survey subcommittee.
Sure. Thanks, Michael. Yeah, so hi, everyone. So I'm Kate. I've been chairing the survey subcommittee for its first year, and I've been serving on this committee with Michael Shensky, Joshua Ben, and Cynthia Henry, also from Texas Tech. So our subcommittee has been working on developing a survey to basically capture information about GIS services and resources at academic libraries. So our purpose has been to determine how academic libraries are addressing academic and research needs in the field of GIS. So to do that, our aim was to use a survey to collect information about GIS services, geospatial data and collections, academic programs, and other GIS and data related resources across Texas four-year higher education institutions. So ultimately, we wanted to capture this information and share it using an interactive dashboard. So we began working on this back in September 2020. And so we've been meeting monthly to work towards this goal. So to start, we consulted our larger GIS interest group to give us ideas of what types of information they thought would be helpful and interesting to collect. And we wanted to focus on different aspects of GIS services and resources that other GIS librarians and faculty and researchers would find helpful to connect them with others in the state of Texas. So our subcommittee worked on several different aspects of the survey. The first thing we considered was scope. So we needed to consider the population that we would survey. So next, please. So next on the slide, please. There you go. Okay, so for our population, this was really a two-part decision. First, for our first iteration of the survey, we chose to include four-year institutions of higher education, mostly due to the fact that we felt like it would be more feasible for our workload to accomplish this. So we limited to four-year universities. And second, we chose to target the libraries at those institutions specifically, as opposed to academic departments or faculty. Since we kind of needed to focus the content and the questions of the survey, and since we were more interested in the library's role and supporting GIS research, so we felt like this would be the best way to approach it. Next, please. So we want to make sure that all Texas four-year institutions are represented. So our survey is live, and so we'll fill out, we'll give you the link in the chat to that shortly. But first, we'll talk about a couple more things, and then I'll put the link in the chat. Next, please. So for our methodology, we first generated a list of Texas four-year institutions of universities, and we looked at identifying primary and secondary points of contact for GIS specifically at the libraries of those institutions. So we came up with a set of criteria to identify these folks and recorded it. And then we drafted the survey. So over the course of several meetings, we used the various questions that were supplied by the larger interest group, and we organized them and then grouped them into 8 different categories. So then the survey went through a review process. We introduced it to the larger interest group and prompted them for feedback. And after incorporating that feedback, we then had a limited trial distribution of our survey to only the institutions where the primary point of contact that we identified was also an active member of our GIS interest group community. So this gave us another opportunity to get feedback before we deployed the survey to the full list of Texas universities. So the full deployment is underway, and we've made contact with our primary points of contact. And as of now, we have 15 responses out of approximately 75 universities that we've contacted, which is great. And so these responses are represented on our dashboard, which Joshua Bidd from Baylor has very kindly and expertly created for us. But before I show you the dashboard, quickly, I just want to mention our future plans for this subcommittee. Our work is not quite done. First, we need to develop a maintenance plan for the dashboard and also for the survey. So our future iterations of the survey may need to be adapted for clarity and relevance to changing GIS models and technology and trends. So we'll be working on that. And then second, we also want to make sure our next iteration of the survey incorporates community colleges and other institutions of higher education into the population. Okay, so next, please. So this is a screenshot of the dashboard. So this screenshot was taken before we had the number of responses we currently have. So you can access the full dashboard. I'm going to drop the link in the chat. So I'm going to drop the link in the chat for the full dashboard so you can access that here, and we encourage you to explore. If you click next on the slide, I believe it will highlight a button on the top left side of the screen. So when you first open the dashboard, it will default to the first question and display the responses to that question. And then you can navigate to a different question by clicking on that button that's highlighted, on the screen to explore the responses to the individual questions, which are grouped in those 8 different categories that I mentioned earlier. And so again, I just want to highlight Joshua's excellent work in creating this for us. He used Power BI to make it, and he put it together very quickly, and he's been rapid fire updating it this week as we've been getting more responses. So kudos to him on that. We really appreciate his work. So we would love for your institution to be included if it's not already. So please fill out the survey, which I'm going to drop the link in the chat to the survey. And or if you don't feel like you're the most appropriate person to fill out the survey based on your knowledge of the institution, you can help us by sending it to the best person at your institution to fill it out. Okay, so that's all I have for the survey subcommittee.
Great, thank you so much, Kate, and thank you overall for all the great work that you have done leading this subcommittee over the last year. It's great to see just how much success we've had with this survey, to see these results coming in, and see the great work that Josh is doing, helping us visualize all of those in this dashboard. All right, so moving on to our next subcommittee, we're going to hear from Diane, who's going to give us an update on the events that the TDL GIS interest group has planned over the last year.
Yeah, so a little bit about the group that I kind of want to mention, because we have also other members of the committee here with us. So we have Christina and we have Josh, who is a part of the GIS events group. And one I think a beautiful aspect of this group right here is the level of expertise and knowledge starts from a very I'm learning about GIS to I am an expert in GIS. And so that allowed us to kind of see to understand that all librarians come with different knowledge. And so when we're designing and thinking about our webinars, we were very mindful of that, that everybody is going to come with different knowledge, and everybody's going to have a different experience and different questions or a different outlook to things, right? So we kicked off our first webinar that was a intro webinar that was hosted by Michael, Nathaniel Bafu from Texas State, and Cynthia from Texas Tech. And that one was just a very straightforward one where it was like, here's your introduction to GIS. We're going to go ahead and cover background knowledge and just different things about GIS, the field itself. And so with that, we also took we created our second webinar was more designed to the services, right? Library services and the different types of levels that one can provide in GIS to their faculty, to their staff, to their university institutions. And so that was the webinar that I'm talking about was GIS Library Services Models for Academic Libraries. That was hosted by Michael, Josh, and myself. And we just provided different examples of how to build GIS services at your library. And we offer 3 different types of experiences in that sense, where I was the novice, no specialist librarian, just starting to build this gathering and curating all the GIS resources that we had at my university. Josh provided the view and the experience of intermediate user. So he provided what you can do if you have a stronger background knowledge of GIS and what are the different different services and different resources that one can offer. And then, of course, we had Michael, who provided the expert use experience and like talking about how to design webinars or how to design, sorry for my dog's barking. It's the UPS guy. And Michael provided that expert level of how to present and how to like teach GIS in a different way. we all kind of know his Data and Donuts workshops. And so that was something that Michael was providing that expert experience. And so for so those two created those foundations, and then we had different webinars throughout the year that covered from mapping to data. Our last one was the data one, the data love one. And that one was something that, we had those. I welcome everybody here to go to the TDL YouTube page and watch our first two and our third one and our fourth one also. And then right now, our meetings are very much brainstorming meetings. We are thinking about what are we going to do for next year and what do we want to provide. We want to make sure that we cover everybody's knowledge base, but also provide some really cool and different approaches on how to deliver this information. So currently right now, we are thinking of doing a podcast. And so that is going to be something that we're really excited about, that we will be able to have an archive of different interviews that are presented from different researchers from different universities. And it's really there to showcase what we want to do is really showcase what Texas is doing with GIS and how GIS is within Texas. And then of course, we are thinking and we'll be planning a GIS event for GIS Day. And yeah, I welcome you guys. If you just want to pop in and, or shoot out an idea, your guys, welcome to join us and just collaborate with us and brainstorm with us. And if you want to design or create a webinar, we'll be here to help you. And so, yeah. And yeah, that's all I have to say.
All right. Thank you, Diane, and to all the members of our events subcommittee who have done such a great job this year. It was pretty amazing, I thought, how fast we were able to get some of these events planned, so soon after the formation of our TDL JS interest group. And it's been great to see how these have been received and attended. So yes, thank you so much, and absolutely to echo what you just mentioned there, Diane. Always looking for new contributions and new ideas, and so I hope we'll see some exciting new events come up in the year ahead. All right, let's go on to our next slide here, and we will be hearing from Christina Klunch with an update about the mentoring subcommittee, which has really been led for much of this last year by Jennifer Flaxbart, who unfortunately isn't able to be here today. But Christina's going to do a great job filling us in on great things that the mentoring subcommittee has been working on. All right. Thank you.
Thanks, Michael. Yeah, so Jennifer was not able to come, but thankfully we've all been working together on this the whole time, and she was able to help put this together and let me fill in for her. For the mentoring program, we definitely meet monthly, and we have tried to find out from all of the members what they are looking for to receive, if they would like assistance or if they want to grow. And as someone who's new to GIS, I would say that I would be a mentee. I'd be somebody who would be needing a mentor. And we were able to identify that on our contact sheet and decide how many people are willing to be mentors, who would like to be a mentee, or who's interested in just co-learning. They just want to learn with someone else who is at the same level as them, and they want to just grow together in their understanding of GIS and in their efforts to grow in the different programs that are available for it. And then the whole point of it is that even though someone says that they're willing to be a mentor, we're not trying to take tons of time from them. Sometimes when you think about that, you're like, oh, that's going to take all of my time I have to give, and that is not the case. For me, I'm in contact with my mentor, and I told them that, I'd ask a question when I have one, but my job is not only about the geography, it's actually a very small part with the other stuff that I do. So there's not a lot of time for me to dive into it, but I still love this topic, and everyone here is so kind and in answering questions. So even if my mentor wasn't available, anybody in the group would be happy to help me if they can. That's really what's really awesome about this group. And I'm talking about the TDL GIS group as and the larger scale, not just the little mentor subcommittee. And so as we have been identifying this, we've been trying to decide what's a really great way to help encourage learning and help encourage members who would like to grow in their skills beyond just a webinar. Sometimes if someone has a question, they might find it difficult to ask an entire group. So they might want to ask one person, but then they feel bad about taking that person's time and who knows what. So while we were having these discussions, we actually worked on, there's an idea that was presented for this GIS learning community sprint. And this was, as you can see, it's a training opportunity. And we've been working on voting on the theme that people would be most interested in for this first sprint. And if this week goes well that we're putting it on for, it's going to be in July 19. If it goes well, then we would hopefully be able to continue this and do more of these sprints to help people learn and have an actual project they can work on, things that they can learn from in the somewhat classroom setting a little bit. And Michael may be actually able to talk about it more. We haven't done a whole lot of planning yet. We're still working on the planning for that. And but they can grow in that skill in a very short time, but in a time frame that works with their schedule. And then come together and see this finished project and see what they were able to do and accomplish and grow from that. So this is something that I'm very excited about and are trying to push full steam ahead on in the planning. And really, we would just love to include anyone here who would love to have this opportunity. We would love for you to join. And there was several of you who mentioned that you're not really in GIS. This is new for you, but you're excited. You love maps. This is a great opportunity and a great way to learn more and to kind of branch out and try your hand at something else. So yeah, I just encourage you to join us.
All right, thank you so much, Christina. And yes, I will echo that, this is still in the planning stages. So if this seems interesting to you and you want to have a role in, kind of determining how this develops over the next couple months as we head into July and get ready to host this, I would welcome contributions from anybody that wants to be a part of that process. We're actually going to be kicking off our planning meetings starting next week as we really get going, trying to get this all put together for July 19th. We'll actually kick everything off. So thank you so much, Christina, for that update. Great work going on there in the mentoring subcommittee. And now we will hear about our last standing subcommittee, the Data Collaboration Subcommittee, which has also been doing some great work this year, exploring opportunities for collaboration around geospatial data initiatives. And for this update, we're going to hear from John Watts.
Hi, everyone. My name is John Watts. I use he, him pronouns, and I'm speaking on behalf of the Data Collaboration Subcommittee, our co-chair, Jessica Trelogan, and members Michael Shinsky and Christina Klunch. And this group formed to discuss how we might coordinate geospatial data collections across Texas institutions. We realized really early on that there is a wealth of data collections just among our institutions in the subcommittee, and a consolidated scaled effort toward making these collections discoverable would be beneficial to many. In this group, we've discussed the opportunities for a shared geodata portal using the Geo Blacklight application, which is a multi-institutional open source collaboration to make geospatial data discoverable and accessible. And I'll drop a link to that in the chat after this. And this type of collaboration would really require us to kind of also co-design a standardized geodata management practices and metadata standards. So we talked about a lot of those just inner workings and what that might look like. I would say one highlight of the last year was meeting with representatives from the Big Ten Academic Alliance GeoData Portal. And they're really sort of a model consortial effort that we aspired to. And this group was able to share resources and best practices for spinning up a similar group. So we're still meeting to discuss the implementation of such a plan, and we're really interested in creating a roadmap to identify our future steps, leveraging some of the data from the GIS survey and input from the rest of the group. So, and again, I'll share some of the links to the Big Ten Alliance, as well as the Geo Blacklight, so you have those for your reference. And that's it from our subcommittee. So over to you, Josh or Michael.
All right, thank you, John. Yeah, so really, great work going on in the data collaboration subcommittee, and I'm really looking forward to seeing what develops in the year ahead with our exploration of opportunities to work together, and hopefully for those of you that are maybe joining us today and haven't been, in our GIS interest group meetings, if this sounds like anything that you're interested in being a part of, we would definitely welcome participation from other institutions. All right, so let's go on to our next slide here, where I think Josh maybe popped off the call for a second. It looks like you I don't know, I saw a thing.
I'm here. No, I can't see any chat, so I thought, because I'm in the Zoom client, so I thought let me hop onto the website, but it's causing problems, so I'm going to stick with the Zoom client.
All right.
Joshua, one thing that you can do, what I've done in Whova, and this goes for everyone, you don't necessarily have to plug into the Zoom in order to access the chat. Like I have my audio off on, so you'll see two of me in the Zoom call. Just so if you wanted to see the chat. But anyway, sorry, go on, Michael.
So yeah, I was going to actually see if Josh, if you wanted to take us through this slide and let folks know what they can expect in terms of benefits of participation, since Josh is going to be taking the reins as chair of our TDL GIS interest group starting next year in 2022. So yeah, interested to hear from him and let him tell you all what to expect from being a part of this group.
All right, well, I think, hearing from Michael introduce the group in general and its conception, and hearing from the 4 subgroups, I think you've got a pretty good idea of our endeavors and goals and missions, and how we're really trying to really push, promote, and encourage and increase the use of GIS, especially across libraries in Texas. So as these bullets here suggest, I've been having a blast, not only meeting, we've got some real interesting characters that are so much fun to meet with on this group, just building that network of colleagues. As you heard from the subgroups, we've got the mentoring committee in place. Michael was very generous enough for meeting with me a week or 2 ago and helping me with some GIS questions that I was getting here at Baylor. We'd love to see more universities and libraries represented on the dashboard of GIS use across Texas libraries. So I'd love to have you joining our group, which I can't say enough times. It is really, it's a lot of fun. Something that's a highlight of my week, meeting with this group. And we'd love to see as many of you guys filling out that form as possible. I tell you that creating the survey with the survey subcommittee and walking through questions and being able to see what some real experts are wanting to know about how experts in GIS and how GIS is used in other libraries is really opening up my eyes to new possibilities. A perfect example of that would be the the single sign-on to so that researchers at your university can access Esri GIS software and services without having to go through a person to manually assign them credits, assign them services, assign them a license. And I really discovered that because Michael and others were interested to see what other universities have single sign-on set up for their Esri account. And so that's something that here at Baylor, over the last couple of weeks, we've had some meetings, and we're really hoping that by the fall semester, we have single sign-on set up. We've got so many new initiatives. That sprint in July should be a real blast. And it's been a lot of fun to work with others to develop these webinars moving forward. It's been a little bit tricky to try and schedule these synchronous live webinar type events. So like Diane was suggesting, we're thinking about shifting, not entirely, but shifting our focus to more of the creating video content on demand, whether it's audio podcasts, video interviews on YouTube. And we would love to have as many of you as possible to help not only design ideas, but also to participate in whether it's a live webinar or interviewing a GIS researcher at your institution as an installment into a podcast or videos. And I think that's just about everything. If you've got an interest in GIS, let alone if you're actually actively using GIS at your institution, this is a really great group, and I encourage you all to sign up and participate with us, especially this year while Michael is still the chair. Thanks, Michael.
Yeah, thank you, Josh. And yeah, so plenty of exciting things going on in this group. If you haven't, had a chance to participate before, or maybe weren't aware of the things that we were doing, hopefully this gets you excited about, joining us for our upcoming meetings and events and other initiatives that we have going on. We definitely welcome anybody that is interested in participating, and hopefully this group just continues to grow, and we can develop exciting new things heading into the future in 2022 when Josh is going to be taking the reins. So plenty to look forward to. All right, so now I want to turn things over to an open discussion. Really interested to hear from everyone that's here today. What are you excited about? Were there any questions that came up related to the things that we had mentioned that the TDL GIS interest group is actively working on or has worked on over the past year? I know I have something in mind if nobody else does that I'm interested in discussing, and yeah, just really interested to hear from everyone that's here today. What are you working on? What are you excited about? What are you thinking about at your institution in regards to GIS or geospatial services? So I'm going to go ahead and leave the floor open here, and feel free to unmute and just introduce a question, or let us know what you're thinking about any of these topics here or other topics that might not show up on this slide. Really totally open-ended at this point.
I've unmuted, and hopefully I'm not talking over anyone. I'm wondering, from the perspective of the folks who are hosting us today, what do you think it would take for Texas to get to something close to the Big Ten Alliance?
I think that's a great question, Courtney. And actually, you had mentioned TDR and Dataverse and geospatial data a little bit earlier, and that was the thing that was on my mind to bring up here as a discussion item. So, in our data collaboration subcommittee, we've floated some different ideas for how we might be able to start working together in a collaborative way, around the sharing of geospatial data. And even out of that conversation that we had with two of the representatives from the Big Ten Academic Alliance, that gave us some other ideas as well, and maybe even the opportunity to work together with folks that are part of that consortial effort. So I think that really it depends on what other institutions across Texas would like the collaboration to take, what form it would take. And we've talked about as one potential option maybe being right now here at the University of Texas at Austin, we have a geodata portal that's up and running. One of the great things about using GeoBlacklight to run this portal, and GeoBlacklight is the open source software that John had mentioned when he was talking about our data collaboration subcommittee, is that it can pull in metadata. We can harvest metadata that is openly shared using the Open Geometadata schema, or GeoBlacklight schema rather, and then shared through the Open Geometadata project. We can pull that in through this GitHub repository and then make these resources available through our Texas Geodata portal at UT Austin. So that could potentially be one avenue for collaboration, is that other institutions across Texas, if they were able to get their geospatial metadata into this GeoBlacklight metadata schema and then share it through the Open Geometadata project, technically that data could then be readily made available through our existing Texas Geodata portal. And then beyond that, there's other opportunities. Potentially we could work towards building a consortial geodata portal, so one that doesn't just live at UT Austin and provide access or facilitate access to geospatial data at other institutions, but one that is collaboratively managed by different organizations, or maybe even looking at the Big Ten Academic Alliance. And I know that they've mentioned that they're considering maybe expanding the breadth of the participation and maybe building out their network of contributors to make it a larger effort, even larger than what it is currently. So maybe there being an opportunity to collaborate with that consortium. I think there's a number of different forms it could take, and I think what we've realized is that it really depends on where our Texas institutions are at with their geospatial data and metadata. And really, I think the first step is going to be getting folks together that want to participate in a collaborative effort, and getting us to the point where our metadata is in the same format and it's at a point where we can start to share it with each other, and it's standardized so that we can kind of plug and play and pull it into a portal and know that everything is going to display in the same way. So those are my ideas there, but I'll definitely throw it back to the group here and see if anyone else has ideas or suggestions.
I'll just add that I think one of the big takeaways from our discussion with the Big Ten Alliance was that there really needs to be someone who's responsible for organizing the consortium. So it's they have for their alliance this the librarian at the University of Minnesota, who is really sort of the primary contact and coordinator of that project. And that was sort of their biggest recommendation to us, was that this was part of someone's job description to make sure that there were just documentation and regular assessment and some kind of coordination among the interested parties. So I thought that was an important piece to this. And so I think that was part of our discussions post that conversation, was what might we do to find some kind of a primary motivator for all of this. So that was kind of one thing that I think would be important if we were going to try something similar.
Just, I think it needs real support from the administration at the various libraries. Having tried to do something just on campus with like a shared portal, of all the units that have data did not happen. Like, and so I can't imagine even trying to go outside or even think about, you know, my library, like we don't participate in Portal to Texas History. And it's, and so that our administration has not supported participation in that initiative. So I think that's a big hurdle, is how do you get past some of the, this is ours and this is what makes us special. And if everybody else has it, then I'm not special anymore, sort of reactions.
Yeah, I think that's a great point, Sierra. And actually, that was you know, one of the things that came out of our discussion with the Big Ten Academic Alliance was that you know, we learned a little bit more about how, you know, they've gotten to the point they're currently at with their shared consortial geodata portal. And it was interesting to hear that initially, you know, there were these institutions that were, you know, discussing, you know, the possibility of collaboration, and they all kind of took steps towards independent geodata portals before they came together, you know, to actually get this consortial effort going. And so even if, you know, our various institutions are, you know, maybe initially at the outset thinking of doing their own thing, if we can even just get to the point where we're standardizing on the software that's being used or the metadata standards, and if those, you know, same decisions are being made at different institutions, even if we're independently doing things at first, you know, once we get to the point where we have these shared workflows, it makes it much easier for us to start working together in the future because things are interchangeable. So, you know, even if, you know, this doesn't happen, you know, right away, or we're all of a sudden collaborating and doing things with each other, even if we just agree on the methods that we'll be using, I think that could be a huge step forward for us in laying the groundwork for future collaboration.
I think I just want to add to that it's kind of what comes first, the chicken or the egg situation a little bit, because one of the things that we need to make collaboration happen is to collect metrics and show them to stakeholders about how sharing to a portal actually increases traffic to your own set of collections. I mean, and if you look at something like the DPLA, it's taken them a while to get to the point because they had to get stuff in there before they could show the impact it has on all of the individual and unique collections that they've harvested. So I think one great thing about the existence of the Big Ten Alliance and then some of the other international instances that are similar, specifically in Canada, I think we can start looking to them for those examples and those metrics and kind of start building the argument. At least that's the way I approach something like this, being part of a collaborative consortium where we're always trying to think of like, how can we facilitate making this thing happen? So I just wanted to add that, and thanks for bringing that up, Sierra.
Yeah, and Courtney, I think that's a great point. To piggyback on that just really quickly, I'll mention that the Big Ten Academic Alliance has done an amazing job sharing their documentation and all of the materials and resources they developed, some of which highlight you know, the cost savings associated with you know, this collaborative effort. And so they have a wealth of materials that we could, you know, draw on to help kind of show if we're trying to advocate for this, you know, collective effort at our, you know, various institutions, that you know, hey, here's this other group that has done something very similar, and here are the benefits that they've found to you know, working together rather than, you know, everybody you know, going their own way. So yeah, I think that's a great point, that, you know, whenever you start to think about these efforts, you want to make sure that you're justifying the work that's going to be done, and looking for examples of you know, similar efforts that have been successful elsewhere.
I want to add at an institution like Baylor, where the concept of creating our own blacklight or geospatial search, it's just not going to happen in the far foreseeable future. However, if TDL or some consortium takes the initiative and starts creating procedures and policies and directions and instructions, I could easily see then an institution like Baylor that is not leading the way in GIS participating then and creating or working with data that we have and sharing it, as long as there is that that leadership group that's going to provide the standards and the methods to make that happen.
Yeah, I think that's a great point, Josh. And I think that kind of speaks to maybe some of the next steps that we can start to take with this data collaboration group, especially once we've received more of these survey results. And hopefully we'll continue to get some results in and start to see where different institutions are at and how might we be able to start to take step forward in a way that allows all these institutions that might be interested in participating to do so, regardless of what stage they might be at in terms of, maybe they're not, particularly close to the point where they might be able to launch their own portal or something like that. But even if, we can start to develop these standardized protocols or data management workflows, that might be enough to get us to the point where, certain institutions can participate at least in some capacity. And also, I was just thinking back to your original comment, Courtney, earlier when you mentioned TDR and Dataverse. And I will share that could potentially be another avenue for collaboration, since I know we have quite a few TDL member institutions that are participating in Texas Data Repository. One of the things that we're currently working on here at UT is exploring how we can use the Dataverse API to try and harvest geospatial data that is stored in our Dataverse instance in TDR, to try and pull that down and then process the metadata and the geospatial data itself to get it into a standardized form where we then might be able to make it available through our Texas Geodata portal, that GeoBlacklight instance that I mentioned earlier. We're something that we plan on working on more this summer. In particular, we're going to have a focused effort to make some headway there. And it's something that if we do it using Python script and the Dataverse API, it should be pretty standardized, something that we might be able to share with other institutions who could do something similar for trying to, again, extract and process geospatial data from TDR to get it into a standardized format. So maybe potential for collaboration around that as well.
I have a question, and lower the bar as far as expectation of my question. I feel like you all have a lot more knowledge in this area. So for someone who is brand new to this, what would a project or a LibGuide or anything, what would that look like? Would you be able to show an example of that, or maybe send me to a link somewhere?
I would start by kind of asking, because I've managed and have passed them off to John, several GIS focused LibGuides. Some of them are just like, here's the service we offer sort. And then others are more of a curated page of where to find data, which is probably the more popular one. And it is very much towards the researchers we have at our university and the sort of GIS research they're doing. So as trends have changed, or a new faculty member with a new area has started or something, we kind of adapted it to fit that. But it goes to some of the things in Texas that we would just think of. So like TENRIS and those sort of portals that exist from the state level. But then, we have a big relationship and research center in Costa Rica. So there's a whole section dedicated to data on Costa Rica. So it's very much driven by our researchers. And it is just links on a LibGuide. And then constantly having to update them as websites change, especially government websites. But student workers are great for that. But that is, I would say, probably one of like out of our GIS and map focused LibGuides, but even out of LibGuides overall, probably one of the more popular LibGuides at our university. And so it's like local for our community, and then we go to state, and then kind of those specialized topics based on our researchers on campus. I can pull up a link and drop that in the chat.
And I'll mention, I also just popped a link in the chat that I think everybody should be able to see. I put it in the Whova chat. But that's a link to our UT Austin LibGuide that I've been working on since I've been here at UT Austin for about the last 3 years. And I will say it's one of our most popular LibGuides as well. It tends to get quite a bit of traffic. And you know, I keep adding new guides to it, and it continues to grow from year to year. Yeah, so there's quite a few things that we have there, everything from installing software to getting set up with an ArcGIS Online account to finding geospatial data, trying to make it kind of a one-stop shop for all, you know, geospatial questions that folks might come across. And I will mention that the great thing about using LibGuides, at least for me, since I also provide GIS consultation services, is that I notice when I start to get, you know, the same question a few times, that's a hint to me that I should build a guide for it, so I don't have to keep, you know, scheduling consultations or, you know, typing up the same email over and over again. I can just say, hey, you know, I developed a guide that explains how to do this common thing. And it you know, definitely lessens my workload and benefits the campus community to make that information more widely accessible. So LibGuides are great. I'm a big fan of them. And yeah, I would say that, you know, if anybody is looking for examples, you know, please feel free to refer to what we've developed here at UT Austin, or reach out if you ever have any questions for me.
The other thing I'd add kind of on those ones where we had also, when we previously had a GIS service desk for kind of those common questions that worked on a guide, we would also literally put that into like a PDF that I could just hand out at the desk too. I could be like, here's the guide, but the students just wanted step-by-step on a piece of paper as they were sitting with their laptop. And that ended up being an incredibly helpful thing also. So it was in the FAQ sort of section, but we also had that printout copy that we keep like 10 of on hand at any time. And then they could take it with them, and that would help if they were trying to do something on their computer already.
And just to kind of add on to this conversation about LibGuides, I added the LibGuide link for UTSAs, and like how right now we are at our beginning stages of creating data services here. And so like this is kind of just the basic guide that, you know, we have for our GIS certificate program for the graduate school. And that's like something where right now I'm trying to develop and see what else. And so like the partnership, so like in the guide, I included our actual GIS lab that is maintained by our geography and political science department. And so building partnerships with them and trying to just create that, you know, where to go on campus, to who to speak to, is where right now my guide is at. And what else? Yeah, because I got this, I was given this guide by our geography librarian. And so she was like, here, you know more, take over. And so slowly by little bit, I've been kind of just working on it, trying to figure out like, what is the need, and, you know, at UTSA, and what information do I need to put on here. But I'm hoping to grow this more, but this is kind of just a good example of like, if your institution is not, is at its beginning stages, you know, these are things that you could just kind of put up on a LibGuide for GIS services.
Yeah, and I'll just add too, I'm going to drop the link to the UHCL LibGuide as well. This is like show and tell, everybody drops their LibGuide. But something I wanted to point out in that I was able to add to the UH Clear Lake one was that I'm working with the faculty member who primarily teaches the geography classes. We don't offer any degrees in GIS, but we offer a minor in GIS. But he teaches most of the GIS centered courses. And so what he and I did was we collaborated a little bit on a video series. And so he created some instructional videos that were really geared towards his students, but kind of helped introduce people, just anybody who is interested in using GIS. Since we have single sign-on with Esri, ArcGIS, basically this is a resource for anybody at the university to go to, and they can watch these instructional videos. And so that's a really nice feature that we were able to put in on our LibGuide, because the website is a little bit, it's maintained by a different department. And so it's a little bit of a struggle to update it on a really continuous basis. So because we have this collaboration, he can just email me and I can just add something to the LibGuide really quickly. And so that's one really nice benefit to using LibGuides, is that you can, it's that opportunity to really collaborate with your faculty members as well.
All of these guides are really great. So we are a federal depository library program. So we've got all of these government documents, and there is a word I'm trying to think of as far as Texas documents and resources that we regularly get. Man, words are hard today. Anyways, so I'm looking at these guides and I'm thinking, because I pulled up some of our library stuff and we've got all of these great documents. We have a few web pages on finding maps and Texas data, and I'm just thinking, I'm seeing these guides and I'm thinking I need to pass this along, because this might be something that our government documents department could get on board with, or at least be of interest, and possibly be interested in this group. So I'm definitely going to pass along all of this information to them as well.
I'd say I like to push rules. So we have pretty specific guidelines and rules about how we use our LibGuides, set up by the group who manages them. And I'm constantly being like, well, that's how I read the rules. I think it fits. So I create guides for absolutely everything. COVID happened. I created a guide for like how to teach with primary source material when you can't access special collections. And at first they're like, well, that doesn't really fit our LibGuide rules. And I was like, well, where else am I supposed to put it? So I support doing guides for anything and everything that is either a resource that is hard to discover or use, a new service, something you want to promote. I have a guide just for my imaginary map collection at the library. And so I make guides for everything. And there's such a wonderful way to quickly share something with a user when they email you via email. They feel more personal than just like sending them to the FAQ page. It doesn't feel like I'm being like, oh, you're an idiot, you could have read the FAQs. I'm like, no, this is a complex research topic. Here's multiple pages dedicated to it. So yeah, our GovDocs librarian, I don't know actually what her title is now, government document information, something like that. Laura, she's wonderful. She's made fabulous guides. And I think when you're thinking Texas of government information too, it's so complicated because like, it's not actually public domain because Texas is wackadoo, and all of the discoverability of it being hidden and what's behind a paywall, but really you have free access to. And so I'll also add for this group, if you are managing GIS data in your library and the state wants to charge you for it, you can push back and say no, especially if you're a public institution in Texas. I'm not quite sure how it works for the private ones, but we've pushed back a lot on the state at A&M to get data that they wanted to charge us hundreds and hundreds of dollars for, that we're like, we can only provide it to our A&M researchers, but at least I'm able to give the oil and gas data to our oil and gas students. And because the state wanted to charge us tons and tons of money. And so push back on the Texas government on that GIS data. They're trying to recoup the cost of producing it, but it's silly for the state to pay the state.
Sierra, I just want to mention it. I was exploring your imaginary places collection, and I was like, this would be so awesome for like urban planning students who have to kind of create like these imaginary places or actual physical places.
Yeah,
This is dope.
I found it, I don't use it as much with like the geography courses. Sometimes with like the entry human geography, gets used a lot by architecture. It gets used a lot by the performance studies department when we think about like, how do you space and place and these sorts of things. So yeah, it's a lot of fun. I'm trying to write a book on it right now. I have a contract, so in a couple years, maybe. Yeah. Something I wanted to ask is everybody planning for their GIS Day events already? What is that looking like for folks?
I'm gonna be honest, no, we haven't thought of it yet, but we'll brainstorm.
I'll mention on the UT Austin side, we haven't really started planning too much, but one of the things that we participated in last year was Texas GIS Day. And I don't know how many folks that are here today maybe were involved in any way or attended Texas GIS Day branded events, but something that we're looking forward to participating in again this year. And it'll be interesting to see exactly what form that takes. Last year, obviously being very unique, where pretty much everything had to be virtual. Now this year, it looks like, fortunately, things are getting quite a bit better with COVID rates and maybe the possibility of in-person events returning in the fall. Yeah, not quite sure. I think we're still holding off on making plans to see how things develop in the next couple months, but interested to see how we might be able to collaborate as part of Texas GIS Day. And then of course, now with our TCDL GIS interest group, starting to explore what events we might want to be working on together through the interest group.
For Texas GIS Day, the last meeting that was held, we're hedging bets and hoping that things move forward in a positive manner with the pandemic. But the idea is that to almost like aggregate and allow everybody to advertise in one, almost like a geoportal, have a Texas GIS Day portal. And as much of things that could be recorded or broadcasted live, have them available that way too. We're having a major push to try to make this as a way that like K through 12 schools can participate and attend these really wonderful events with high impact speakers and experiences, happening at the higher ed institutions around the state or the organizations like URISA and stuff. So if y'all are interested in having yours on the Texas map or something, watch for those communications to go out. I'm not part of the communication group, but we're really trying to, even if all it is to say, yes, this place has it in Texas, really be a true centralized way where we can advertise everyone. And so I know the folks, I think one of the people at URISA is the president, whatever we're calling it this year. And so kind of finagling and managing everyone, but that's hopefully something that would be really great to see everyone be able to support and virtually attend what can across the state while also going to stuff in person.
One of the last in-person visits I was able to do to any of our members was on Texas GIS Day, and it was at Texas A&M Galveston. They were kind enough to invite us to their event that day to talk about the Dataverse just a little bit. But they also had a speaker from the EPA talking about a Texas project that she was working on and sharing how she used GIS data in that project over time. It was absolutely fascinating. And then I also share this not only as an example of a GIS Day event, but also as an example of the problem with having one champion at an institution, because shortly after that very event, the person who was the champion for GIS data at the library there at Texas A&M Galveston left, and there's been no replacement with that level of enthusiasm for GIS data there yet. And obviously that region and that institution in particular, also being a Texas A&M institution, you can imagine, they've got a lot of data going on there in Galveston and around Galveston, and I hope that they get a new champion for GIS data, but I just wanted to share that example of what can happen when it's just, you know, one person.
Yeah, I think that's a great point, Courtney. And I'll mention that, you know, for anybody that's here today or, you know, thinking about participating in the TDL GIS interest group, you know, don't be afraid to share information about, you know, this work that's going on, you know, in GIS through TDL with other folks at your institution. And, you know, it doesn't need to just be one person at each university participating. We'd love to see multiple folks getting involved and learning more about GIS and, you know, becoming interested in advocating for GIS, you know, both at their institution and then, you know, through these efforts that we're participating in collaboratively as well. So I see we have about 15 minutes left before the end of our session. So still plenty of time for anything that folks might want to discuss. I feel like this has been a great conversation. We've covered a lot of topics from events to, you know, GIS Day, LibGuides, you know, potential for collaboration around data sharing or geoportals. So yeah, any, you know, map or geospatial data topic here is free game, and yeah, still have plenty of time, but you know, also if we feel like you know, we've exhausted all topics for conversation, we can also wrap up a little bit early as well. Give everybody a few minutes to regroup before you head off to the next session today.
I would be curious to know how people who are serving scanned maps via their website in some way that have been georeferenced, how they are managing also providing those georeferenced files. Because I and my IT department, not me, I know it can be done because I've seen other people do it. My IT department is struggling. So right now they just have me putting, the scanned map is going into Fedora, the GIS data is going into DSpace, and then we just link to the GIS data in the DSpace interest at the Fedora page, Spotlight or Sage or whatever that we're serving the image at. And that feels wrong.
Can you explain why it feels wrong? Because like that, the use of Fedora and DSpace is new to me, so I kind of want to know why you think it's wrong.
Right. So I want, for the best user experience, for them to be able to click on a link and download everything at once. With them living in two different places, they're downloading, you know, that high resolution TIFF from the Fedora instance, and then they follow a link to our institutional repository. So they're having to go to another platform to then separately download, you know, those 5 files for the georeferenced image.
So you're,
yeah.
So the whole more than 3 click rule is like, you want to cut that.
Yeah, it would be cool if I could just have one thing that they click and get everything instead of having to go to literally different web pages on the library's website.
I'll say here at UT Austin, we haven't quite perfected things. I wouldn't say that, but what we are doing is sharing out all of our georeferenced scan map images through our Texas Geodata portal, which I just shared the link to in the chat. That's been up for 1.5 years, and so we're really focusing our efforts on building that out further and contributing new data sets. We have about 700 that are available through it right now, at least 700 specifically from our collections, and then thousands and thousands more available from the collections of other institutions that have shared their geospatial metadata through the Open Geometadata project. And then our high resolution scan map images that are not georeferenced are actually shared through a different portal, our collections portal, Sarah, it sounds like you might even be a step ahead of us there, or at least you have a link between the high resolution scan map image and the georeferenced one. We don't have that link between the portals established yet. That's definitely something that we want to work on moving forward, is establishing that and getting that in place.
Yeah, my shortcut for that link was just putting it in the note field in the metadata.
Yeah, and that's how we're going to have to do it, is put the link in the metadata and just automate the process where we know, all right, this map exists here and it exists there. So let's, run some sort of script that can then put, the link to the other portal in the metadata for, the georeferenced item, or for the high resolution scan map image. So yeah, still working on that ourselves, but that's how we're handling it here at UT Austin. And for the georeference maps, we're making those downloadable through the portal. And we've tried to simplify that process by making it so that they can be downloaded. Let me just go ahead and pull one up here as an example, but you can download it as a zipped file. And so we're making them available as JPEGs, so they're a little bit smaller. But yeah, they're georeferenced JPEGs that folks can download and then unzip to view in GIS software. So I see we are starting to see some folks hop off our session now. Are there any other things that we want to discuss before we wrap up today? All right, well, we have about 8 minutes till we end, but I think if we've exhausted all topics for conversation, I think we did a pretty good job. We hit a lot of the topics I was hoping would come up. I think we can go ahead and adjourn a little bit early and give everybody a few extra minutes to get ready for that next conference event or next thing you have to run to. So I'll give everybody one last chance. Any other topics before we adjourn?
Before we hop off, I'd just like to say thank you so much for joining us today. And I'd like to encourage you, or everyone here, to join us for the upcoming sessions. We have 2 more, I believe. And also please take a look at our poster presenters. And I don't think it's too late to participate in our poster scavenger hunt if you haven't already. You can take the quiz online, and let me grab that that link for you here in the chat. There you go. And yeah, so if you haven't already, please take a look at that. And again, thank you all for joining us today. This was great. I learned a lot, that's for sure.
Yeah, thank you so much, Taylor, for moderating the session and helping us out. You've done a great job, really appreciate it. And I will also mention that I did share the email address for our TDL GIS interest group. So if anybody has any questions or wants to reach out to the whole group, you can use that email to do so. And then Taylor, I did have a question for you. Will the slides that we shared be available?
Yes, once the conference is over, we'll work on getting those uploaded into the TDL repository, and I believe we'll attach the PowerPoint along with any other additional materials that were given. We'll have those all uploaded. I'm not sure on the date of when that will be available, but we'll be sure to, you'll be seeing information going out about it.
All right, so I will mention that we do have the very last slide, which I didn't pull up here. it contains just a list of links that might be helpful resources for folks that are working on GIS related things or want to learn more about the TDL GIS interest group. So if anybody's interested, if you check out those slides, if I pulled it up, you won't be able to click on or see the where the links lead. So I don't know if that'd be super useful, but if the slides are going to be shared, then that might be helpful for folks to refer to. So I will mention that. And yes, I just want to say, oh, go ahead.
Sorry, if you want to do it sooner, if you want to grab those links, this chat stays open.
Okay,
so you could drop them in here for folks who attended and they could come back later and get them.
Yeah, I'll do that too. So you'll be able to get them in both places. Yeah, I'll do that as soon as we wrap up here. All right, well, if there's nothing left to add, I'll just say thank you so much, everyone, for attending. Thank you to all the members of our TDL GIS interest group, and especially our subcommittee members and chairs that have done a great job this past year getting us to the point we're at, where we have so many exciting things going on. Really enjoyed participating in this conversation, and yeah, hope our group continues to grow, and I really look forward to talking all things GIS with you all in the future. All right, thank you.